Hello and welcome to Plugged In. Today's show we're in Kamloops and Victoria, where we met up with author and organ donation awareness advocate Ken Merkley to talk to him about his book, Ending the Waiting Game. Then get ready to be inspired as we introduce you to post-kidney transplant recipient and motorbike enthusiast Margaret, who shares her story of determination and resilience. And meet Kamloops' hometown hero, Dale Kalibaba, who while on dialysis, cycled across the country to raise awareness about kidney disease and organ donation. It's an exciting show, and it's all coming up next right here on Plugged In.
Welcome to Plugged In. Thanks so much for joining us today. If it's your first time catching our show, you may be wondering, what is Plugged In all about? Plugged In is a show that's about your health, and specifically the health of your kidneys. Did you know that 1 in 10 British Columbians has kidney disease, but most don't even know it? So here on the show, we also talk about the importance of organ donation and what it means to someone who needs a life-saving transplant. On today's show, we have 3 very special guests, each of whom have a unique story to share. But first, we want to introduce you to an inspirational kidney transplant recipient and cycling superstar, whose passion to help other kidney patients led him to follow his dream of cycling across Canada to raise awareness about kidney disease and organ donation registration in every town he passed along the way. Meet Kamloops' own Dale Kalibaba.
Hi, I'm Dale Kalibaba, and I rode across Canada 6,821 kilometers waiting for a kidney transplant.
Anytime that the event starts here and completes on the other end of the country, it's an opportunity to bring all of us together. So I want to thank Dale for initiating this piece.
Very anticipated day. I was excited to get it started so that I could get the message out there about home therapy and the importance of staying physically active and physically fit.
Hey everyone, day 11 here in Newfoundland. Finally got back on the Trans-Canada Highway for my last leg to Chanel, Port aux Basques.
3 of the leading causes of kidney disease and kidney failure is diabetes, hypertension, and obesity.
So we're probably about halfway from North Sydney to Port Hastings in Nova Scotia, and here comes Dad riding along the Trans-Canada Highway.
If I can, set an example and encourage people to get out there and start exercising and watch their diet and everything like that, preventative measures so that they don't have to go through the kind of things that I went through.
I want to thank you, Dale, for taking on this challenge and coming here and being a part of this with Baxter Canada. And we thank you for being a true model and inspiring everyone out there with kidney disease.
Probably the most challenging was having the stamina to ride 120 kilometers a day, 6 days straight.
As you can see, the shoulder behind me is all I have to ride on, and it's been pretty much like that since we left Sudbury.
I was excited to get into Winnipeg because the Manitoba renal program had been following my ride across Canada, and they actually started a program online called Ride with Dale.
Seeing what he has been able to achieve has really been inspiring for a lot of people.
I had a great time in Winnipeg. It was incredible seeing patients riding their bike while they're being dialyzed. I was just in awe of what I saw when I walked into the Health Science Center.
I was diagnosed with rare kidney disease when I was an infant, and I was told that my kidneys would eventually fail as a teenager, which they did. And it came to a point where my doctors told me that I was going to have to go on dialysis.
I'm just coming off of 2 major hills on our way to Wawa. Something just didn't feel right, so I thought I'd pull over here on this little pull off and take my blood pressure, and it's 106/74, which is extremely low.
The most devastating news that I ever heard from being at that age, because I knew that what dialysis was all about because my grandmother was also on kidney dialysis, and how she would bottom out with her blood pressure, would drop really low all the time, and she would not feel well. She would sleep most of the time after her therapy. I didn't like the idea of that, so I took a close look at peritoneal dialysis as an option. Hey everyone, I'm just checking in with you. It's been a while. When I reached my hometown of Kamloops that I was battling a catheter infection, I had to postpone my ride.
Right now the adrenaline's going really fast right now because I know I'm so close. So I'm just so excited to get there and just hug that mile zero monument. Well, the flexibility to be able to ride across Canada on a bicycle, the PD machine gave me that freedom to be able to take the machine with me, and as opposed to having to set up clinic appointments. Thanks to the help of my coach who coached me, Shad Ireland, and his foundation.
Stay here. There we go, that's it. Woo!
Don't let the disease or whatever is holding you back control you. You take control of it. You take control of your own life and pursue your dreams. Anybody that is not sure if they're registered as an organ donor, you can go to transplant.bc.ca. It's so simple now with the click of a button to become a registered donor.
Ken Merkley is a name that is well known and respected at the Kidney Foundation, and there is good reason for this. Ken has been an active volunteer with the Kidney Foundation for decades, having held positions at the Victoria chapter, BC and Yukon branch, and even at a national level. He has also served as a member and chaired many committees involving various Kidney Foundation programs. But his main interest and focus, however, has been organ donor awareness. He is the author of a very well received book on organ donation, Ending the Waiting Game, Increasing Kidney Transplants in Canada. His accomplishments and initiatives in fostering awareness of the need for donors and encouraging donation have won him numerous national awards, including the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. And we are very pleased and honored to have Ken Merkley as our guest today. Hello, Ken. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Peter. I'm glad to be here.
As the author of Ending the Waiting Game, Ken, you were writing from decades of personal experience, having lived with kidney disease for over 36 years and being a two-time transplant recipient. Please share your journey with us.
Well, I go back quite a ways in terms of this, half a lifetime or more now. And as a matter of fact, I first had an indication that maybe I had kidney disease when I was only 22. And that was a result of a strep throat infection, which in fact caused some damage at the time, and there was a risk even then that I would probably develop kidney foundation in the future.
Wow,
And sure enough, 15 years later, I had kidney failure, and at first it was a bit of a surprise to people. We didn't recognize what it was, but eventually we had a diagnosis and found out that I indeed had developed a disease, and it was necessary for me to go on organ donation, for dialysis treatments immediately. So I started dialysis treatments and was on them for a couple of years before I was fortunate enough to get a transplant.
What motivated you to write your book on organ donation?
Well, I think you just touched on it when you said about being lucky. As a matter of fact, having received a successful transplant with the disease that I developed, it was a very, very good transplant, but eventually the disease takes the kidneys and kills them off. And in this particular case, the transplant lasted for about 18 years. and then I required another one. But the point was is that because of the transplantation, it was like light years compared to being on dialysis.
Oh, wow.
And as a result, I was very, very pleased with having a transplant, and I thought that really everybody should have one.
Now you said 18 years you got on your first transplant. That's pretty good. My first car didn't even last that long. Was that the average sort of length for a transplant, or?
Yeah, for the disease that I have, I was told I'd get 12 to 15, and I got 18, so I felt pretty lucky.
Did better than most people, it seems. And how long on your current transplant?
Well, my current transplant has been going down 17 years, 4 months, 3 days, and 12 hours at this point.
So we'll keep breaking for 18 and see if we can get to 19.
Exactly.
What do you see as the most important message to kidney patients you wish to get across in your book?
Well, the main thing that I'd like to get across, there's a dual message, but the big one to me is that people who are kidney patients and can benefit from having a transplant need to do anything and everything that they can do to get that transplant, and that means being a self-advocate. In other words, do what you need to do to help convince others to help you get a transplant. And that might entail getting family members on side, talking to your friends and acquaintances. It may even entail advertising the fact that you require a transplant and using your connection to other organizations to help you do that. What I didn't learn to begin with is that I was waiting for others to do things for me, and I was on the waiting list for a transplant. But by the second one, I very much knew that I had to be looking after myself.
You have to put your nose to the grindstone and sort of go and get it yourself, eh?
Absolutely, and I'm a strong advocate of doing that. And the thing is that, again, it's a new life after you're receiving a transplant. And so if you can benefit from having one, you should be doing what you can to get one.
So what am I doing here at the beautiful Barnes Harley-Davidson dealership in Kamloops? Well, you're in for a treat. Our next guest is not only a kidney transplant recipient with an inspiring story that she's going to share with us, she's also a motorcycle enthusiast. Margaret, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, we're so glad to have you here on Plugged In. So before we talk about you being a transplant recipient, I've got to find out, we're in this fabulous shop, your passion for motorcycle riding. When did it start?
Since 2000, so 17 years. Barnes Harley-Davidson in Kamloops is my second home. I come here a lot. A lot of people think I'm staff. But they treat me really well here, and it's just part of our lifestyle where we're all one big family.
Well, so that means, you've been riding, right? So,
yes.
So
yes.
How did that passion start?
Well, it started when my husband and I were together, and after 3 strikes, we had to sell that bike. And then in 1999, we had a little trip, rented a Harley, and I was sold. And here I am,
wow.
loving
So you kept it.
Took my lessons and just love riding. You ride to eat, you eat to ride. It's just all about where's lunch, where's the next bar, where's the next restaurant. It's just what's the best food, and then the companionship.
What's really interesting about your story, because I hadn't heard of it, we haven't covered it before. You contacted something called good pasture disease, and that's what led to kidney failure.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us about that?
Yes, it was one of those experiences where I didn't even know what the word renal meant. And I was sick. I'd been riding that summer, had a really beautiful run down to Saskatchewan to a rally there, and highway to the sun in Idaho, and then came home, and I was tired. I had a cough, and then I went to Seattle, and my girlfriend said to me, you're kind of lagging there, Maggie. What's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just, on this cough. And then she said, finally on the long weekend in September, you need to go to the hospital and get that checked. So 17 days later, found me in the hospital, very, very sick. And then after about a week, and within that week, I realized that I couldn't go to the bathroom. I'm like, that had never happened before. I'd always been able to go pee, but now I couldn't. So then they did a biopsy and came back with the good pasture. Well, like yourself, I'd never heard of that word, never heard of it. So the treatment is to do reverse plasmapheresis. So they put you on a machine and they take a plasmaphere out of you and clean it and put it back in.
kind of like the same as dialysis.
Now, I'm going to back up a little bit because you said when you were first diagnosed, you didn't even know the word renal. So you had no idea about kidney disease, didn't think, oh, maybe this will affect my kidneys.
No, not at all. When I seen my doctor the Monday morning, and he had gotten the blood work from when I was at the emergency, and he said to me, just go home and wait for my phone call. And then the nurse phoned me and said, we need you to go to the bathroom, we need you to go to the lab and go pee. And I'm going, oh, well, meanwhile, I was a mess because they didn't know what it was and they thought maybe I had cancer. So my daughter took me home, and thank God I didn't think about my bike because to go to the lab. So I phoned a girlfriend who was off and said, can you take me to the lab? I need to go take a pee test. And then she says, sure. And then I'm going, well, now I got to drink all these copious amounts of water because it's not coming to me anymore, you know. So then I got to, I did the test, then they phoned me back and said, be at the hospital at 5 o'clock.
And we know now that would have been one of the symptoms, right?
Yes,
the fact that you
but
were
still, didn't even know what the word nephrologist meant.
Right. A huge learning curve for you. So you were saying what you were describing before was, I guess, hemodialysis. So you were on hemodialysis first before going on to peritoneal dialysis, PD, right? Which you were on for, what, another 6.5 years?
Yes.
So what led to what was your thought process on changing? How did that come about, going from hemo to peritoneal?
They said right at the beginning, my nurses said, you are a perfect candidate for PD. And again, no idea what is this?
Why am I a candidate?
And they, but they knew my passion for riding, and they knew that this would accommodate my riding.
So you mentioned about the 105th anniversary of Harley Davidson. There was a big trip, and you didn't let being on peritoneal dialysis hold you back? Tell us about that. How, I mean, you continued to ride while you were on peritoneal dialysis.
I did, and one year in 2008, so now I've, 3 years in dialysis stage, and we decide, a group of friends, 10 of us, decide to go to Milwaukee for the 105th anniversary. And we did this trek for 3 weeks, went down to 4 corners in Arizona, Moab, Colorado. It was just phenomenal, and the whole time I did my dialysis. One of my chapter members, a couple of the guys here built me a trailer to haul all my dialysis stuff in it, and built a pole for me to hang everything. So when we'd stop somewhere, I would just, I know some of the illegal stuff you're not supposed to do, but I did to get my bag warm, and it worked. The whole 3 weeks on that holiday, there was one time when we were coming into Sturgis and it was a bit later, and I couldn't find anywhere to heat my bag up. So I just thought, well, it's been warm out, it should be okay. It wasn't, it was cold, right? So then I got the chill. And you don't realize that when, you're doing this dialysis and you're in the comfort at home with your machine running you, but now you're responsible for the warmth of that bag.
Wow. So just to explain to our audience, so you're riding along, how much time, how often did you have to
I
do?
I did 4 exchanges a day.
4 a day.
So I did, we stayed in motels, we camped, and the KOA campsites are awesome because they all have the equipment that I need. One campsite we stayed at in Moab, we were in the middle of nowhere, Arches Trace Park, and I said to my friends, like, how am I going to heat my bag up? Yeah. And he said, you see that motorhome down over there? And I said, yeah. He said, go knock on the door. Oh, so I did, and they heated my bag up for me. Like, people, the generosity of people was incredible on that trip as we're going across, the states, and sitting on the side of the road, hanging your bag up, got your lawn chair, doing your exchange.
Nothing's going to slow you down.
No, I was devastated the first night I came home from the hospital, and I spent the whole night crying. I was with friends, and everybody felt that's where I should be. And after in the morning, I said, I have to go home. I have to heal at home. That's where I need to start this, because I was really sick. And then I had to do chemotherapy for 9 months to kill the good pasture. So that was a real challenge throughout all this, but I was determined to get back on my bike and get the strength. And that's where they said the PD would help me achieve that lifestyle. And
Perfect.
did it ever.
In addition to encouraging kidney patients to take the initiative and realizing a successful transplant, you encourage them to advocate the changes in the Canadian organ donor system. What is the most urgent change, and what is that currently required, and why?
Well, to me, the big thing initially is presumed consent. If we had a registration system that allowed us to register only the people who do not wish to be an organ donor, we would make the system much simpler and less expensive and more effective, in the sense that we only have to register the few people, by the way, that would refuse to be a donor. As we have it right now, it is very much there's a lot of difficulty involved in getting people registered and knowing then that their wishes are to be a donor. Much easier to find out those who do not want to be a donor.
That's true.
So to me, that's step one. And the thing is, a lot of people argue with presumed consent that in itself, it doesn't do anything except allow you to get those people to tell you who don't wish to be a donors. But then remember, your donor pool now is huge from all of the people who are left after that. And it makes it a lot simpler in terms of going to the other steps to increase donation rates.
I would hope that anyone would be willing to donate an organ for their loved one, but I suppose that is not the case.
Well, you know, if you look at some of the statistics in terms that if we don't know what their wishes are, and in fact, if they haven't registered under the system that we have right now, half the time those loved ones will not provide permission for us to use those organs. That's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
and yet, you know, the same statistics will tell you that 95% of people would agree to be a donor if they'd been asked.
So, are there other countries we should emulate to improve
Yeah,
Canada's
we sure
organ?
are, and I haven't talked about any, but
I'd love to know.
There's some, you know, can almost ask you as a question where you think there might be the effective country, just on your own knowledge. Just give me a guess as to where you think there might be one.
I would guess there'd probably be European countries, probably like Sweden and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're not far off the mark. In fact, the European systems, again, they're the ones that have used presumed consent, so they've started the ball rolling and doing that, and have gone forward from there.
Been a pleasure.
Well, it's been a pleasure to sit down and talk to you, and I hope that I've been able to provide a few things that were interesting.
Oh, I'm sure you have. Now, as soon as I can get in to know when she shot on the golf course this morning, we'll be in business.
Well, I don't know whether I want to disclose that, but let's just say it wasn't as good as some of my other games.
Well, you know, I'm sure there's another day for it tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we hope so, Peter. Yes.
Hope so.
Now, in July 2011, your world changed. You got that call and a kidney transplant. How were you feeling? You got to tell us about that.
Oh my God, in 2011, in
You get
June,
the call, or
I was
yeah.
up here at the dealership, and I had a 1999 Dyna bike, Super Glide. And, you know, people have been saying, come on, Margaret, get a new bike. And I kept saying to myself, I'm gonna wait till I get my transplant. You know, we had just passed all the testing, my daughter and I, to do the paired exchange. So that had happened May 15th. So then in June, I came up here and I got swayed by my pretty little blue bike that you'll see soon, and I bought it. Well then, I had ordered all this stuff. We had a girls' ride planned to the cusp, and I get the phone call at work. And I was just in tears. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, are you serious, really and truly? Yes. It's like, the girls at work were all crying. Everybody was just like, oh my God, it's just unbelievable.
That life-saving moment that you'll always remember where I was,
yes,
what I was doing at the
yes.
time that I got that call.
Always, yes, yeah. So, and it was from a deceased donor.
A cadaveric donor.
And yes, and so grateful to that family that made that decision to follow through on their loved one's wishes to be a donor. And there were 6 of us at BGH that were recipients.
And you continue to ride.
I do.
You told me you're a proud grandmother of 5, is it?
Yes, yes.
I was saying you must be the coolest Grandma. Is
Yes.
it grandma or what do they call you?
Grandma. Yes. Yeah, I've had my 2 grandsons on the bike and they love it, but they're getting a bit, one's as tall as me now, so I'm not, I'm not a bodybuilder, so I'm like, yeah, I think your time's done behind Grandma.
I know yourself, Dorothy, Edna, do some volunteering.
Yes.
I mean, are a major part of volunteering with the Kamloops chapter, the Kidney Foundation as well. What motivates you to volunteer?
Because I'm so positive and having that attitude really helped get me through those dark spots. And I know that there's people out there that have those dark times. So for me to be able to share my experiences and how I got through that is the payback for me to give back.
Margaret, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. So inspirational. I think we're all going to be out there. I know I'm going to take a look at being a motorcycle enthusiast. Thank you so much. We're going to catch up with you hopefully in a few months and hear more about what you've been doing in the interim, trips you've been taking on that Harley.
Thank you, Barbara. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thanks, Margaret.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Plugged In. As always, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's show. So please share that with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Like, share, and spread the word. Or email us at pluggedin@kidney.ca. With 2018 just around the corner, plans are in the works for the 6th annual Kidney Gala. It will be on March 8th at the Fairmont Hotel, Vancouver, and we'd love to see you there. Check out the Kidney Gala website to purchase tickets or visit kidneygala.com for all the exciting details. I just want to leave you with one more thought. If you've not already done so, why not register your wishes to be an organ donor? It's easy and it only takes 2 minutes of your time. Just go to kidney.ca and click on the red register button. Remember, heroes aren't born, they're registered. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time right here on Plugged In.
We'll probably do that one again because I didn't say your name. So.
Probably it was the main reason was to get me off the golf course. You didn't need all that, did you?